It's a day where anybody who has any thoughts about Freddie Mercury really concentrate.
And adulation he deserves.
It's like unconquered territory. So.
If we were writing all the same kind of songs, but we're all writing different songs, so it keeps us interested. So that was interesting enough for us to carry.
On August 9th, 1986, Freddie Mercury stepped onto the stage for the last time. His doctor had warned him not to perform. His voice was failing. During the emotional performance of Who Wants to Live Forever, tragedy struck when a fan's life ended in the crowd. What followed shocked everyone. John Deacon had a violent outburst, and Mercury mysteriously disappeared after the show. Today, we reveal what really happened during Queen's final concert. Freddie Mercury was born on September 5, 1946, in Zanzibar, a small island that was then part of a British protectorate. His parents were Parsi and followers of the Zoroastrian religion, one of the oldest in the world. His birth was considered special. He was born with 4 extra teeth, which he later believed gave him a unique vocal range, allowing him to sing in 4 octaves. He grew up surrounded by African, Arab, and Indian cultures, all of which would influence his musical style. When Freddie was 17, the Zanzibar Revolution of 1964 forced his family to flee. As it became dangerous for families like his, thousands were killed. Before moving to England, Freddie had spent much of his early childhood in India. At the age of 8, he was sent to a British-style boarding school called St. Peter's in Panchgani near Mumbai. It was there that he first began calling himself Freddie and discovered his love for music. A teacher noticed his talent and advised his parents to pay for extra music lessons, a decision that would change his life. At school, Freddie formed his first band, the Hectics, with 4 friends. They played rock and roll covers of artists like Cliff Richard and Little Richard. Even at age 12, Freddie showed a natural gift for music. He also admired Bollywood legends like Lata Mangeshkar, whose soaring voice inspired his own vocal performances. His early blend of Western and Indian influences would later make Queen's sound truly distinctive. When the family moved to England, they settled in a modest home in Feltham near London. Life wasn't easy, but Freddie remained focused on his dreams. He enrolled in Isleworth Polytechnic in 1964 to study art, then continued at Ealing Art College, where he refined his skills in graphic design, skills he would later use to create Queen's iconic logo. To support himself, Freddie worked odd jobs, including washing dishes at Heathrow Airport. At Ealing, Freddie met Tim Staffel, who was in a band called Smile with guitarist Brian May and drummer Roger Taylor. Freddie became close friends with them, and often gave input on their performances. When Tim left the band in 1970, Freddie joined as the new lead singer. He suggested the name, Queen, because it sounded grand and powerful. Their first concert as Queen was in June 1970 at a charity event. The band still needed a bassist, and after auditioning several musicians, they found John Deacon in 1971. Around this time, Freddie changed his last name to Mercury, inspired by a lyric he wrote. "Mother Mercury, look what they've done to me!" Queen's success didn't come instantly. Their debut album in 1973 didn't chart in the UK and barely reached number 83 in the US. Their second album in 1974, Queen 2, didn't fare much better, peaking at number 49 in the UK. Frustration grew, until their third album, Sheer Heart Attack, finally turned the tide. It featured Killer Queen, a song that became their breakthrough hit and set Queen on the path to global fame. Killer Queen became Queen's breakthrough hit, reaching number 2 in the UK and number 12 in the US. Freddie Mercury wrote the song in a single night while sitting at his piano, an unusual process for him, as he typically began with the music rather than the lyrics. The track told the story of a classy high-society prostitute, and stood out not just for its narrative but for its distinctive sound. Brian May performed an intricate guitar solo using a 6-pence coin as a pick, and the production featured multiple layered effects. Despite its eventual success, the song almost didn't make it onto the album. It was recorded last and sparked internal debate. Roger Taylor worried that its playful tone might lead people to take Queen less seriously as a rock band. Then came Bohemian Rhapsody in 1975, featured on the album A Night at the Opera. This song catapulted Queen into superstardom. It was an ambitious project. It took 3 weeks to record, involved 180 separate overdubs, and cost £40,000, making it the most expensive song ever produced at that time. The track was unique in structure, featuring 3 distinct parts: a slow, emotional introduction, a theatrical operatic middle, and a heavy rock finale. EMI executives doubted its potential, calling it too long for radio play and urging the band to shorten it. Queen refused. Instead, their manager secretly handed the track to popular DJ Kenny Everett, who played it 14 times over a single weekend. Fans went wild. The song topped the UK charts for 9 consecutive weeks and resurged in 1991 after Freddie's death, holding the #1 spot for another 5 weeks. In the US, it initially peaked at number 9 in 1976 but soared to number 2 in 1992 after featuring in the film Wayne's World. It became one of the best-selling singles in UK history. Queen also revolutionized the music video. The video for Bohemian Rhapsody was shot in just 4 hours on a £4,500 budget, yet it became iconic. The famous prism-shaped shot of the band members' faces was achieved using a visual feedback trick. The video helped solidify the role of music videos in song promotion. Queen continued to push boundaries. In I Want to Break Free, the band dressed in women's clothing, parodying the British soap opera Coronation Street. Though humorous and bold, the video was banned by MTV in the US. On the other hand, Radio Gaga was one of the most expensive videos of its time, featuring footage from the silent film Metropolis. Queen paid $100,000 just for the rights to use those clips. Their live performances were just as grand. In 1975, during the A Night at the Opera tour, Queen used an elaborate lighting system with 168 lights and 12 aircraft landing lights, powered by its own generator. By 1986, during their legendary Wembley concerts, the setup had expanded to over 1,000 lights, including a 5-ton crown-shaped rig. Freddie Mercury's stage presence also evolved dramatically over the years. Initially shy and often hidden behind the piano, he later adopted a signature mic stand without the bottom half, an accident that became iconic after his stand broke mid-performance. He liked the mobility it gave him and never went back. By 1973, Freddie embraced a more flamboyant image, painting his nails black, an idea inspired by Jimi Hendrix, and donning extravagant glam rock outfits designed by Zandra Rhodes. In 1976, he debuted his famous Harlequin jumpsuit, a skin-tight costume so fitted it had to be sewn onto him before every show. In the 1980s, Freddie Mercury transformed yet again, adopting a more macho look with a thick mustache, leather pants, and military-style jackets. This change was influenced by the gay club scene in New York, where Freddie drew inspiration for his bold, masculine aesthetic. Despite the shift in image, he retained his playful energy, most famously seen in the video for I Want to Break Free, where he appeared in drag but kept his mustache, confusing many and stirring controversy. His stage antics grew increasingly wild. During the Hot Space Tour in 1982, he famously rode on the shoulders of a crew member dressed as Darth Vader while singing We Will Rock You. In Japan, he once stripped down to just a pair of shorts mid-concert, removing his costume piece by piece. Freddie's charisma and daring style made every performance unforgettable. Queen underwent significant changes in the 1980s. In 1981, the band experimented with a new sound on their album Hot Space, with Freddie and John Deacon exploring disco and funk. However, many fans disliked this new direction. Their single Body Language, released in 1982, sparked even more controversy due to its provocative lyrics and suggestive music video, which MTV ultimately banned. Despite the backlash, Freddie remained undeterred in pushing musical boundaries. In 1985, Freddie released his first solo album, Mr. Bad Guy. He spent 2 years working on it in Munich, meticulously perfecting every detail. The album featured dance tracks and heavy synthesizers, highlighting his creative range. True to his unique personality, he dedicated the album to his cats, "This album is for my cat Jerry, also Tom, Oscar, and Tiffany, and all the cat lovers across the universe. Screw everybody else." The album reached the top 10 in the UK but failed to chart significantly in the US. Still, it gave Freddie the confidence to explore even bolder musical projects. In 1987, he collaborated with opera singer Montserrat Cabal on the album Barcelona. The title track fused opera and rock, showcasing Freddie's extraordinary vocal power. It later became the anthem for the 1992 Olympics in Barcelona, although Freddie did not live to see it performed at the event. Meanwhile, Queen as a band faced internal and external turmoil. After Hot Space, they toured but ended up taking a break in 1982 due to tensions among the members. Brian May later admitted, "We hated each other for a while." During the recording of their 1984 album The Works, the strain became unbearable. Brian stormed out of the studio and wandered in a park for hours contemplating quitting, while John Deacon unexpectedly flew to Bali without informing anyone. Freddie, upon hearing the news, jokingly sang Bali Ha'i from South Pacific. The band also faced political backlash. In 1984, they performed in Sun City, South Africa, during apartheid. The show sparked global outrage, leading to a ban by the Musicians' Union and criticism from the United Nations. Their 1985 concert in Rio de Janeiro was met with boos from a disapproving crowd. Complicating matters further was Freddie's personal life. His manager, Paul Prenter, caused friction within the band. Brian May refused to name him in interviews, referring to him only as the guy who looked after Fred. Everything changed on July 13, 1985, when Queen performed at Live Aid. Despite feeling unwell and suffering from vocal issues, Freddie chose to perform. At exactly 6:41 p.m., the band took the stage and delivered one of the most iconic performances in rock history. In just 21 minutes, they played snippets of their greatest hits, including Bohemian Rhapsody, Radio Gaga, and We Are the Champions. During Radio Gaga, Freddie led the crowd in synchronized clapping, creating an electric moment of unity. Over 1.9 billion people watched the performance on television. Backstage, Elton John famously said, "You bastards, you stole the show." That night, Queen's legacy was reborn. Freddie Mercury's performance at Live Aid revitalized Queen's career and brought a new wave of energy to the band. Riding that momentum, Queen began working on a new album, A Kind of Magic, in 1985. It was intended to be the soundtrack for the film Highlander, which explored themes of immortality. To give the album a fresh and modern feel, the band used new digital technology during the recording process. The title track, A Kind of Magic, was inspired by a line from the movie, but Freddie made significant changes to the original version, much to the frustration of drummer Roger Taylor. Another standout track, Who Wants to Live Forever, was written by Brian May after watching an emotional scene from the film. The song featured an 80-piece orchestra, giving it a powerful, cinematic quality. In 1986, Queen prepared for what would become their biggest and most ambitious tour, the Magic Tour. It was a massive undertaking, featuring 26 shows in 9 countries across Europe in just 8 weeks. The stage itself was breathtaking, 160 feet wide with 2 long walkways stretching into the crowd. It was one of the largest ever built, requiring over 8 miles of electrical cable. A giant 20-foot video screen dominated the backdrop, so large it needed its own generator. The sound system was so powerful that people miles away could hear the concert. Some even filed noise complaints from nearby villages. On August 9, 1986, Freddie Mercury stepped onto the stage at Knebworth Park at exactly 6:41 p.m., unaware it would be his final live performance with Queen. A massive crowd of 120,000 fans had gathered, the atmosphere electric as the first chords of One Vision rang out. Dressed in his iconic white tank top and tight jeans, Freddie looked confident, though he wasn't in the best of health. His doctor had told him earlier that morning his throat was inflamed and warned him against performing. But Freddie refused to cancel. He wouldn't let his fans down. As he belted out "One Man, One Goal, One Mission," his voice cracked slightly, but the audience didn't seem to care. Behind the scenes, the band had prepared a backup setlist, concerned Freddie might struggle with some of the harder songs. But he defied their expectations. During Under Pressure, when his voice faltered on a high note, he turned to the crowd and had them sing with him, turning a vulnerable moment into something magical. At 8:03 p.m., they performed Who Wants to Live Forever, one of the most emotional highlights of the night. The lyrics took on new meaning, as though Freddie was singing about his own life. At 8:17 p.m., they launched into Bohemian Rhapsody, one of the most challenging songs in Queen's catalog. Freddie delivered with full force, even singing parts of the operatic section live, something usually played from tape. He reached for a high note he hadn't attempted in years, and the crowd exploded with cheers. The final song of the night was We Are the Champions. Freddie's voice cracked again, but instead of pulling back, he held the note longer, feeding off the audience's energy. The roar of the crowd was so loud, it could be heard in nearby villages. At 8:59 p.m., the band closed with God Save the Queen. Normally, this was when the band would leave the stage, but Freddie stayed. He stood still, eyes closed, as the music played. As the final notes faded, he turned to the audience, bowed deeply, and said, "Thank you, lovely people. Good night and sweet dreams." It was 9:02 p.m., the end of Freddie Mercury's last live performance. However, behind the scenes, not everything was well. Just 18 minutes before the show, something unexpected happened. John Deacon, Queen's usually calm and quiet bassist, lost his composure. He threw his bass guitar across the dressing room in a rare display of rage. It nearly hit Roger Taylor's drum tech. Those present were stunned. Deacon had never shown such emotion in his 15 years with the band. Later, he quietly confided in Brian May, "I can't do this anymore. It's too much," John Deacon had said quietly, seemingly aware that this might be Queen's last performance with Freddie Mercury. Tensions ran high backstage. Deacon got into a heated argument with the sound engineer, demanding changes to his bass levels. Despite being visibly upset once he stepped on stage, he delivered one of the most powerful performances of his life. Tragically, the night also saw the loss of a young fan. During Who Wants to Live Forever, 23-year-old Michael Jennings collapsed in the crowd, about 50 meters from the stage. Medics arrived quickly, but they couldn't revive him. He was pronounced dead at 9:43 p.m., while Bohemian Rhapsody echoed through the air. The band remained unaware of the incident until after the show. Jennings, who had an undiagnosed heart condition, had won his concert ticket just 2 days earlier in a radio contest. His friend Sarah, who had accompanied him, said he was having the time of his life and kept repeating that it was the best night ever, until he suddenly collapsed. His heartbreaking death led to stricter safety measures at large concerts in the years that followed. Freddie Mercury's behavior after the show was also unusual. Known for his love of post-show celebrations and chatting with crew members, this time he exited the stage almost immediately after the final song. He didn't say much and even left behind his silver bracelet, a piece of jewelry he'd worn at every performance since 1977. It was later found by a cleaner and returned to him. His assistant, Peter Freestone, later revealed that Freddie had received a call from his doctor just before the show, news that deeply concerned him. That, combined with the immense physical and emotional effort of the performance, appeared to weigh heavily on him. On the ride back to London, Freddie sat silently, staring out of the window and quietly dabbing his eyes with a handkerchief. He seemed lost in thought. Backstage, Freddie had a rare moment of vulnerability. He turned to Freestone and whispered, "I don't know if I can do this." Roger Taylor recalled finding Freddie alone in the dressing room after the show. Freddie looked up and said, "Darling, I think I've given it my all." At the time, Roger assumed Freddie was just exhausted. But later, he realized those words were a quiet goodbye. Roger still keeps a drumstick from that night in his studio as a reminder of their last performance together. John Deacon, who later left public life entirely, admitted that it was the hardest performance of his life. "During These Are the Days of Our Lives," he cried, convinced it might be the last time the band would ever play together. For Queen, that night truly felt like the end of an era. Freddie Mercury's life was filled with deep relationships, personal battles, and unforgettable moments. One of the most meaningful connections he ever had was with Mary Austin. They met in 1969. He was 24, she was 19, and quickly fell in love. They moved in together and even got engaged. But in 1976, Freddie told Mary that he was bisexual. With gentle honesty, she responded, "No, Freddie, I think you're gay." That conversation shifted their romantic relationship, but their emotional bond never wavered. Freddie always considered Mary his one true companion, famously saying, "All my lovers asked me why they couldn't replace Mary, but it's simply impossible." Even after they parted romantically, Freddie ensured Mary remained a central part of his life. In 1980, he bought her a flat in Kensington, just a short distance from his own home. When he wrote his will, he left her half his fortune, including his mansion. As his health declined, Mary remained by his side, ultimately fulfilling his final wishes. After Freddie's death, she quietly scattered his ashes in a location she never revealed, just as he had asked. Freddie Mercury's personal life was as complex as his music was brilliant. From 1985 until his death in 1991, he was in a committed relationship with Jim Hutton. Yet, his life remained complicated, as he was also close to Austrian actress Barbara Valentine, and the three of them would sometimes spend time together. Freddie's relationships often overlapped, reflecting the tangled nature of his personal world. His struggle with sexuality and public perception lasted his entire life. Born in 1946, he grew up in an era when homosexuality was illegal in many countries. Though he knew from an early age that he was attracted to men, he had to conceal it. When asked about his sexuality, he often deflected with humor, once describing himself as gay as a daffodil, a playful way to dodge the truth while maintaining his privacy. Beyond music, Freddie was an artist at heart. He studied art and design in college and had a deep appreciation for beauty. Over time, he built a remarkable collection of rare and valuable art, including paintings by Picasso and Dali, Japanese woodblock prints, and antique glass. He even commissioned portraits of his beloved cats, who were like family to him. His mansion was filled with these treasures, a testament to his refined and eclectic taste. Freddie Mercury was diagnosed with HIV in April 1987, though signs of the disease may have appeared as early as 1982, when he visited a New York doctor about a lesion on his tongue. Despite the rumors, he kept his diagnosis a closely guarded secret, even from many of his closest friends. The British tabloids, particularly The Sun, relentlessly speculated about his health in the mid-1980s, contributing to the stigma and fear surrounding AIDS and likely reinforcing Freddie's decision to remain silent. Even within Queen, the topic was rarely addressed. Guitarist Brian May admitted that the band didn't ask questions because Freddie didn't want to talk about it. Only a handful of people, including his assistant Peter Freestone, knew the truth. Freestone later shared that Freddie was haunted by the deaths of friends from AIDS and wanted to protect both himself and those close to him. Freddie poured his love and attention into his cats, often calling them up from chur and treating them like children. His deep emotional connection to them was just one of the many private aspects of his life. On November 23, 1991, just one day before his death, Freddie released a public statement confirming that he had AIDS. It ended years of speculation and revealed the truth he had carried alone. By that time, he looked increasingly frail and thin, prompting public concern. Yet, despite his declining health, he never stopped making music. In 1990, Queen began recording the album Innuendo, accommodating Freddie's health by adjusting their schedule, 3 weeks of work followed by 2 weeks of rest. Doctors had warned the band that Freddie didn't have much time, but he remained determined. One of the album's most powerful tracks, The Show Must Go On, became a symbol of his unbreakable spirit. Brian May worried that the demanding vocals might be too much, but Freddie responded by downing a shot of vodka and saying, "I'll do it, darling." He then delivered a flawless take in one session. Even after finishing Innuendo, Freddie continued to record. In May 1991, he worked on tracks like Mother Love and A Winter's Tale. His last recording session took place on May 22, 1991. Though he couldn't finish Mother Love, the song was later completed by May. These final recordings were featured on the posthumous album Made in Heaven, which was released in 1995. Freddie's last public appearance came on February 18, 1990, at the Brit Awards, where Queen received the award for Outstanding Contribution to British Music. Fans were shocked by how thin and tired he looked. Brian May gave most of the speech, while Freddie, visibly unwell, said only, "Thank you, good night." These would be his final public words, a quiet but heartfelt goodbye. By June 1991, Freddie's health had severely declined. He remained mostly at home in Kensington, West London, surrounded by close friends and former partner Mary Austin, who visited frequently. As his condition worsened, he lost his eyesight, became bedridden, and eventually stopped taking medication, except for pain relief, on November 22. That same day, he worked with Queen's manager Jim Beach to prepare his public statement. The next day, November 23, it was released to the world. On November 24, 1991, Freddie Mercury died peacefully at the age of 45. The official cause of death was bronchial pneumonia, brought on by AIDS. His partner Jim Hutton described his final moments as peaceful, saying Freddie looked calm and radiant. After his death, Freddie Mercury's legacy only grew stronger. In 1995, Queen released Made in Heaven, which featured his final songs and became a worldwide success, selling over 20 million copies. His influence endures. Queen's Greatest Hits is the best-selling album in UK history, and Freddie's voice continues to inspire billions through streaming platforms and live tributes. Though his life was tragically short, his music and spirit remain eternal.